Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on today's webinar titled CloudOps Best Practices for 2022. My name is Shabrinath Rao. I'm VP of Products for MontyCloud. We are a Seattle-based startup focusing on cloud management. We are also an AWS Advanced Technology Partner and an AWS Marketplace Partner. Joining me here is Sudipta Su, who's head of cloud for Ninth Dimension, our Bangalore, India-based partner. Sudeep, do you mind introducing yourself, please?
Sure, Shomina, and thanks for having us here. Hello, everyone. Good evening to you all. It would have been great if we would have met in person and done this in person, but given the current situation, I think this is the best we could do. Well, Nine Dimension has been in existence for over a decade now. And along with MontyCloud, we started our foray into cloud automation space. And with MontyCloud, we feel very confident in resolving a lot of cloud automation and operation problems that you may face in your current environment. And let's see how MontyCloud can actually do that for you. And thanks once again to the entire MontyCloud team for doing this webinar along with us.
Yeah, thanks, Sudeep. Thanks for being here. Folks, today we'll talk about how you can drive CloudOps excellence with a few customer examples. But before we do that, I'd like to get a pulse on where the audience is today. So Bharat, if you don't mind, can we push our first poll question?
Poll is live. We are having 15 seconds to give the answer.
Thank you, Bharat.
The first poll is ending in 3, 2, 1.
All right. Thank you, Bharat, for that. Looks like the spread on cloud providers is what you would expect, with AWS taking the bulk. All right, folks, let's keep this session interactive. As Sudeep mentioned, if the circumstances were different, we'd probably be doing a live session. The chat windows are open and our panelists are available to answer your questions as we go through this session. Now, we're just coming out of reInvent week, right? This means all the innovations in the cloud are pretty much top of mind for us. The cloud offers infinite possibilities. As a developer or even a cloud manager, there can't be a more exciting time to be in IT. The number of innovations and changes that have come that enables us to engage with our users cannot even have been imagined even about 5 years ago. It allows us to innovate faster. It allows us to engage with our users remotely. And it also gives us environments that are inherently reliable, available on demand, and scale infinitely. You no longer have to get through onerous budgeting cycles, procurement cycles, and so on and so forth. However, as cloud managers, it also brings in a host of challenges. Our users, which is our app developers, expect us to provision environments for them on demand. Our bosses expect us to run secure, compliant environments all the time. We are expected to be responsive. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour is considered too late sometimes. Gone are the days when somebody would fill a form, open a ticket, wait for like 6 to 8 days before their environment becomes available. And all this while you're managing and learning up to 200 plus services in AWS alone, and hundreds more if you're a multi-cloud organization, And while they also expect us to keep our budgets under cap. It is a very complex world. And if you know what you're doing and if you can write code, it can be really exciting. But how do you manage this when in a constrained environment when there aren't even experts available to hire? Let's quickly jump into a set of best practices that we are here to discuss, and then talk through these with a couple of customer examples. First, to get a handle on our cloud deployment and get to a cloud center of excellence faster, we need to simplify and enable our developers, our users to provision their environments through self-service mode. Secondly, as our environments grow and become more complex, we need to get continuous visibility into the cost and consumption and be able to put that in an applications context so we are able to make the right decisions. Next, these environments are now exposed and they need to be continuously monitored for security and compliance. So we need to get continuous assessments so that they can be remediated. Automation and detection of any issues, resolutions, and also automating routine operations such as growing a node or adding users and things like that, and pushing that more and more into the applications context, closer to your app users and app developers, helps free the IT teams to take on more complex tasks, such as replatforming the organization and such other things. And then we also need to be able to deliver on custom DevOps requests faster. All this can be accomplished through automation and without necessarily having to hire experts. And you can do that as you continue to grow your team. Before we jump into what MontyCloud can do and does today, let's look at a couple of customer examples of what our customers have been able to do. We'll first start closer to home. Jain University is one of the premier higher educational institutions based out of Bangalore. They have 7 campuses across the country. Founded in 1990, they have about 18,000 students from 43 countries. They're also supported by their sister organization, Anvesha, to run their vast IT infrastructure that you would expect a university of this size to run. Now, our story begins in May of 2020, when COVID hit and it spread pretty rapidly. Cities and countries shut down, and organizations were forced to pivot towards remote operations. Jain University was no different. They too had to pivot to remote learning, and it could not have come at an more inopportune time for them. They were days away from conducting their end of semester examinations. And these examinations were to be conducted across 14,000 students with 4 exams per student. And at any given time, they were expecting 3,500 concurrent connections. Now, these systems were designed for on-prem, in the sense that they were designed for setting up the question papers, managing the grades, and so on. They weren't necessarily designed for online administering and proctoring of examinations and maintaining the fidelity of the exam papers, the grading systems, and the exam taking itself. As this happened, the IT team was faced with options. Either they could continue to add to their on-prem footprint and continue to scale it vertically, which was proving to be unstable and unsustainable for them, or they could move to the cloud. When you're faced with such pivotal moments and a customer comes to you, it's always helpful when their IT team is forward-leaning, as the JGI Anvesha team was. They came to MontyCloud to help them move to the cloud. The obvious choice for us for bursty applications, such as examination applications, which kind of are used every few times a year, it makes sense from both a cost perspective as well as from a dynamic elastic scaling perspective. When they came to MontyCloud, as you can imagine, a digital transformation for a critical application like this can take weeks to months of planning. However, MontyCloud is designed for such quick onboarding and management. Based upon the requirements that the team gave us, we were able to use infrastructure as code templates to provision their accounts, set up their dev environment and their test environment and their application environments with the appropriate the security cost and compliance guardrails, and get them onboarded with their first application within 3 hours and run a test with a controlled group of about 500 students. We also set up their CI/CD workflows, and with testing with these controlled group, we were able to understand their routine operations, such as adding a node, changing user entitlements, adding users, removing users, and so on and so forth. And we were also able to automate most of these tasks. Now, and then we onboarded the other 7 of their applications, and their students, 14,000 students, were able to take their examinations in less than 2 weeks with absolutely no disruptions. The fact that the environment was designed to dynamically scale and many of the routine operations were automated on the back end meant that this team was able to run a cloud center of excellence for one of their most critical applications in under 2 weeks without having to up-level their skill sets or hire experts. This also meant that their operating costs went down from about $35,000 to less than $8,000 in under 2 weeks, $8,000 a month. I'm going to pause here for a minute and let you read what Dr. Roychand had to say about this effort. This truly was transformative for JGI, and it brought the power of the cloud to them in a very short period of time. Okay, we talked about moving an on-prem application and becoming efficient for an examination application. Now, as you can imagine, educational institutions are more than exams. Many educational institutions have researchers and other faculty and staff that do non-academic work. St. Louis University is one of them. Based out of St. Louis, Missouri, they were founded in 1918 and one of the oldest universities west of the Mississippi. They're also one of our oldest customers. We work with a research computing group who are tasked with providing the best-in-class computing infrastructure and technology across campus. We started with them with a very simple website migration application. But soon, as they realized the power of MontyCloud, where they can onboard complex applications and make it available, abstract most of the tasks that you would expect and push it down back to their researchers, they started bringing more and more applications to us. One of the applications that we enabled them to move to the cloud and automate the routine tasks was a HPC application that their molecular research group is using. As you can imagine, high performance computing can become very complex to run as it uses some really beefy machines. Their on-prem infrastructure was becoming unsustainable, was coming up for an upgrade, and the request cycles were greater than 5 days. This was quite unacceptable. And this is primed to move to the cloud. Just like our examination app, these are also bursty workloads. So we worked with the SLU team or the St. Louis University team to understand what their HPC environment looks like. And we again designed an infrastructure as code template that the IT team was able to push into a self-service portal, which they now enable their researchers on. The researchers launch this environment on demand, run their research models, and it automatically shuts down while the cost controls are in place so they don't go haywire in terms of the types of instances they deploy. And also, they've also been able to automate some of the routine tasks, such as when the simulation runs, for example, the environment shuts down by itself. With the successes that they've seen with these type of applications, SLU team now is onboarding their 7th application onto MontyCloud. They're running an infrastructure that runs hundreds of thousands of dollars and manages terabytes and hundreds of terabytes of data with MontyCloud. And you would expect that such an environment would require them to scale their IT team really, really quickly. The reality is, with the automations that MontyCloud is able to provide, they have not added anyone to their cloud team. Their cloud team is effectively run by about 2 people. That is the power that automation can bring. Now, it's just not universities that we work with. MontyCloud has helped both startups and Fortune 500s and everybody in between accelerate their digital transformations and harness the true power of the cloud in terms of both productivity, efficiency, and speed of innovation, as well as bringing their costs down. Let's look at a couple more examples real quick. We worked with a global luxury retailer. They were running a complex inventory app, which it required 40 plus AWS services to be deployed. As you can imagine, managing the configurations and integrations between these services and the testing can take a long time. The fact that we were able to standardize these deployments with infrastructure as code templates brought their deployment and testing times from 40 hours, if you will, to less than an hour, about 50 minutes. And the entire application is upgraded and environment is upgraded and deployed with any changes with just one click. Enough of provisioning. Let's take another example of administration. We worked with a Fortune 500 global ISV. They wanted us to automate their compliance assessments and compliance posture reporting, as well as DR across a large group of servers, 10,000 servers that they were running at any given time for one of their applications. There is no way humanly possible for them to scale their IT organization to run scripts and manage these environments. MontyCloud worked with them to design a bot. Now, all they do is enroll these servers, and they're continuously monitored for any changes or drifts, and they're tagged to the administrators when something goes wrong, and they're able to respond very quickly and in a very pointed manner. Their IT team, again, is a very small team that has not necessarily grown even as the environment grows. We similarly automated cross-region disaster recovery across multiple regions across 600 application servers. RTO RPO is now down to less than an hour with RPO of less than a minute. This is only possible in the past for the most expensive environments, right? Many of the financial institutions did that with dark fiber and other things. Now it's possible for a simple SaaS application with the cloud and a little bit of automation. This is what MontyCloud has been able to bring to customers. Now you're probably wondering, can I do this too? What is it going to take? You absolutely can. There are some very basic principles that you have to follow and use a tool like MontyCloud Day 2 to transition into a modern CloudOps organization. First and foremost, embrace infrastructure as code. Embracing infrastructure as code enables you to virtually design environments, standardize them, put guardrails, and push them closer to the people who are using them while you continue to maintain control and visibility of what is happening within your environment. Secondly, follow well-architected principles from the ground up. Well-architected principles are best practices that cloud providers encapsulate based upon their experience working with thousands of customers. MontyCloud engineers are cloud certified, which means anything that we have built into MontyCloud itself, day two, is designed ground up from using well-architected principles. The application itself has gone through a well-architected review, and we are a cloud management tool certified application from AWS. Finally, applications and application environments are living things. They need to be maintained, they need to be monitored, and they go through changes. The more you can identify these change patterns that occur on a recurring basis, and the more you automate them, it reduces the operations burdens on the team and therefore reduces the total cost of cloud operations. Can we go to our polling question 2, Bharat? Let's try to understand where our audience is now.
Sure. The poll is live.
Okay.
We'll end the poll. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you, Bharat. Right. So we have talked a bunch about what our customers are doing, and I've mentioned MontyCloud Day 2, our application, a few times. Let's switch gears. Let's look at what MontyCloud Day 2 is. In short, MontyCloud Day 2 is a cloud management and automation system. We are a SaaS solution. Customers such as JGI and the number of customers that I mentioned earlier as use cases use MontyCloud to quickly provision, put guardrails, and automate their cloud operations, including compliance, security, cost management, governance, and other routine operations. Typically, customers who use MontyCloud are able to onboard their applications onto the cloud in hours, if not days, and immediately start seeing cost savings of up to 70%. Now, rather than me just talking about Day 2, let's look at what Day 2 is. And as I said, since this is a SaaS application, all you have to do is log in. And you immediately get a portal with the current state of your environment, including your security, compliance, cost posture, and your resources, as well as any optimization recommendations. But our journey as an administrator almost always begins with the admin console. We organize applications by departments, but any cloud onboarding journey almost always begins with onboarding your accounts. You can connect an account, but for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to use an account that's already been connected, HR Prod. And this is roughly the journey that all our customers go through. Once you connect an account, MontyCloud immediately discovers all the resources deployed across all your regions and tags them and inventories them. The next step that you would take in this is what we would call hardening an account. And hardening an account usually is setting up its default security, governance, compliance, cost, and other states. And I repeatedly mention these because these are the most routine tasks that you continue to do. This desired account state is what you would set for continuous monitoring and checking for drifts and what happens when that drift happens. In this case, we are going to run this out of Asia Pac South, Mumbai. We'll check if you have permissions to run this desired account state on your account. Looks like we do. That's great news. Next, we'll set up our security posture. Since we are a cloud native application, we inherit a lot of the best practices that, in this case, AWS has provided. You can go and set IAM roles and groups, and then you can set up password policies. You can look at all the AWS Trusted Advisor best practices and enable Trusted Advisor, and so on and so forth. Next, we are going to go and set our cost thresholds. Let's just say $12,000 a month for this, and we'll say a threshold of $10,000. So when the cost exceeds $10,000, you would get an alarm, and you can go and look at what is happening, and if there are any unnatural things occurring there, you could potentially go and remediate. We'll set up config and CloudTrail. So if we ever have the best practice is always to enable logging, and so we capture all the events, and if something goes wrong, we can go and do a root cause analysis really quickly. And also MontyCloud uses these event changes for routine administration. Next, we'll set up our alarms. Like one of the earlier alarms that we looked was the cost alarm, right? And finally, we set up notifications. There are a number of integrations that MontyCloud provides into Slack, Teams, PagerDuty, and others. Just to keep things simple, we are going to set an email notification. You get the review and can change anything that you don't like. And then you execute this template. Now, your account is continuously monitored for to maintain this desired account. Next, MontyCloud also provides security and compliance bots. You can activate the security bot, which essentially enables you to perform comprehensive security checks and also align your security posture to common security frameworks that AWS themselves provide. All you have to do is set the scope on which accounts you want to run, check for your prerequisites, define your policies. You can pick from a whole slate of like 200 odd policies that AWS themselves provide, or you can add your own as well. And these take into account industry standards such as NIST and TSC, ISO, and others. And finally, you add a notification and you execute. And when you execute, you can decide how frequently you want to run these security scans. By default, we set them for 12 hours. And there you go. Your security bot is now launched, and your account is now being monitored. The same for the compliance bot and the cost monitor as well. So now that you have set your account that you want to manage, the next thing that you would do is set up your application environment. When you go into assets, it's pre-populated with several configurations of common application patterns that MontyCloud has designed based upon our customer inputs. Since we talked about cloud transformation, let us look at the transform server apps today. This cost estimate tells you what it costs to run this template. You will obviously have, based upon other resources that you add or other resources that you consume, your actual cost may be different. Now, first, in addition to this catalog of templates that MontyCloud provides, You also have the ability to create your own infrastructure as Cloud Blueprint. And you also have the ability to import your own custom blueprints so you can manage these applications using MontyCloud. Let's look at this particular environment now. The first thing you get is all the resources that this environment consumes and their correlations. If you are a developer and you want to configure these yourself, you also get access to the deployment code. Next, you would go and set your tasks. These are the tasks that you want to enable your users to either execute automatically or to be able to modify and perform by themselves, right? For example, we have set up a CloudWatch alarm. That is a requirement from an administrator. So you would continue to add these things, and there are custom tasks that you can add here as well. Next, you set up your monitoring. As you can imagine, every one of these resources that you configure comes with a whole set of monitoring metrics that they provide. One of the things that MontyCloud gives you is to be able to choose which of these metrics really matter and avoid dashboard clutter. Lastly, you create configurations. As you can imagine, a dev configuration is going to be different from a staging configuration, and it's going to be different from a production configuration, both from the resources and the types of resources that you deploy, for example, an R instance versus an M instance, for example, or even who has access to it. You might not want to give devs access to the production environment, and vice versa. You probably don't want to give the SRE folks access to the dev environment. For the purposes of this demo, let's just say staging. And then deploy this. When you deploy it, this blueprint is now available in the provisioning portal. The provisioning portal is the self-service portal that is now available to your application developers. Since I have superadmin access, I'm seeing the entire catalog. In JGI's case or SLU's case, they would only be seeing the HPC app environment here. As an application owner, now all I have to do is deploy. When I deploy, since we only gave permissions for dev and staging, I see only the dev and staging configurations. The account has been preset for me. I'm going to click staging. It tells me what the configuration looks like. I can go look at my configuration. If I need any changes, then I would be contacting my administrator, in this case, the cloud manager, back and asking them for any configuration changes, and you'd either approve or disapprove. But in this case, let us go with the staging environment. Many of the parameters have been locked by you as an administrator. You only have to give access to some of these parameters, like name my application. And give my server a name. Select the AMI from a list of approved baked images. And then set up an action. In this case, I'm going to say send a notification to Slack after execution of this template, basically when my environment is ready, to a Slack channel with a customized message which says, then you get to review and you deploy the blueprint. As you can see, we have gone through deploying an entire application environment for a server app that is moving to the cloud. And we haven't yet written a single line of code. We haven't had to think through onerous configuration changes. We haven't had to think through like how these, what resources need to come together. All of this has been pre-configured and available to us. If I'm a developer, all I have to do right now is click and at one click, my application environment is available to me. And as an administrator, you have complete control over the configuration they deploy, what tasks they can perform, cost, and other guardrails have already been set. Now, for ongoing management purposes, you would just go into the app tab where this application environment is available to you as an administrator and also available to the app owner. The app owner gets to see what resources they're using, the current state of those resources here, the tasks that are available to them, and if they want to run any of these tasks, their own monitoring dashboard, and it also we have given them the ability to create some rules, and we call this if this then that, in the sense that if there were some if an action or something were to happen within the application, then what should they do in the because again, the application owners are closest to the application. They know when there is some anomaly, how to react to it. In this case, we're saying if CPU utilization is greater than 60 on Tuesdays, then send a notification to somebody to take some action. Now, in many cases, you can also upload a script here and automate some of these remediations if you think that that this is not an anomaly, that this is a routine anomaly that kind of happens and you know what to do with it. And finally, in the applications context, we give you insights. What is the security and compliance state? And if there are any violations that you may need to go and report. In this case, the audit logging has been disabled, so you probably need to go and enable that. And then we also enable you to create and export reports. Now, this is a application owner's view. You also get an admin view of the same application, which gives you a view of the resources, what has happened, who has permissions, and what tasks are enabled and executed, so on and so forth. All right, let us stop here for a minute. We just went through an entire deployment cycle and an entire configuration and management cycle. We went through the 5 things that we said you should do in 2020 to drive CloudOps excellence. Be simplified and enabled your developers to provision as a self-service mode. We got cost and consumption visibility across the entire account or your entire footprint. We enabled you to get continuous security and compliance assessments. We automated detection and remediation of many of the issues, as well as like routine operations. And we also enabled you to deliver any custom requests that your dev environments might require, be it scripts or or custom resources or so on and so forth, and deploy it back. So we enabled you to respond to your users faster. And while we did that, we did not have to write a single line of code. What this means is now you as an IT administrator can now onboard onto AWS, set up your basic infrastructure, deploy your application environment, and get your users up and running in less than a day. You don't need experts. You can do it yourself, and you can continue to scale faster and faster without compromising on any of the corporate principles that your IT department may want to enforce. You have control, while the developers have complete control over their application as well. This is the power of day 2, and this is what our customers have been able to leverage to improve both their productivity as well as bring their costs down. Now, you're probably wondering, there are many cloud management platforms out there. What makes day 2 unique? Day 2, as we talked about, is cloud native. We only make API calls. We do not require any management servers or agents. All you have to do is connect your account and you can start using the product immediately. Secondly, we have simplified cloud management to a number of clicks. You no longer have to write code. We went through an entire process of setting up a cloud account, setting up a dev environment, deploying an application, and managing that application without writing a single line of code. Thirdly, we provide application context. Many of the cloud vendors today look at cloud management in the context of accounts and regions. That is an infrastructure mindset. For us to deliver the experiences that our users need, which is our cloud developers, we need to be able to make decisions and optimize in the application's context. Our users are our app developers. For them, being able to innovate faster and run the app optimal environment is the experience that we can provide. That's the power of the cloud that we can provide to them. Enabling us to collate information and provide and bubble that up in the applications context allows us to be more efficient and allows us to run a more responsive organization. This is what MontyCloud Day 2 is able to bring to you. Now, if only digital transformations were that simple. Cloud migrations themselves are quite complex. They require a host of planning and sequencing of tasks. This is where partners such as Ninth Dimension come in. Before we jump there into Ninth Dimension, I'd like to post our last poll question. And Bharat, if you might do that, please.
Sure. Launching the poll. I hope the poll is live.
We can see it here. I'm not sure if the users can. So can somebody just post on the Q&A if you're unable to see the polls? Okay, thank you, Bharat.
Thank you.
All right, let me invite Sudeep to talk about how Ninth Dimension complements MontyCloud here and how we work together. Sudeep, take it away, please.
Thanks, Shabri, for the really enlightful presentation and the demonstration of your product. Well, as you can see on the slide, we are not new to this industry. We have been in this foray for more than a decade. And the pandemic actually helped accelerate adoption of public cloud as we see it. And that is where Nine Dimension comes into picture, where we have the in-house capability to perform the assessment, do the complete sizing for you from a optimal cost perspective, help you to actually migrate over to the cloud, and then help you effectively manage it with the help of MontyCloud. Having said that, many people do have people-related challenges where they may not get the right skill set on time in order to deliver the SLAs back to their business. And that's again where we provide on-site and remote managed services in multiple areas, be it on-prem, be it cloud, for data management, security, and ongoing operations as well. We have very niche, clientele, which we can actually talk of, Technicolor, Mercedes-Benz, Walmart, Flipkart, Aegis, business process outsourcing, Wipro, soon to be Infosys. Okay, so all these are our clients who come to us basically based on the technical capability and expertise that we carry in these domains. And along with MontyCloud in our portfolio, we actually feel much more confident in providing much better, SLAs and deliver the needs of our customers like yourselves at a cost and pace which is acceptable. And I really thank each one of you to have spent this time with us. I hope it is worthwhile. And please feel free to reach out to us with any questions that you may have, or you might want to know more about any of the things that Shabri has spoken about. We are more than happy to come over in person, or do a remote session like this, focused only on your problem statements. So once again, thank you so much, MontyCloud team and all the attendees who are there with us today. Really nice to have you on here. Over to you, Shah.
Thanks a lot, Sudeep. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for the partnership. Truly appreciate all the work that you guys are doing with us together. Right. All right. As we close out, come to the end of this webinar, you're probably wondering what's next. MontyCloud, I can't stress, is a SaaS application. There's nothing that you have to download. All you have to do is connect to the account, and in less than 10 minutes, you're up and started. We invite you to get started with MontyCloud. You will get an immediate visibility into what's running into your account, as well as cost compliance and cost assessments, as well as some optimization recommendations. We are a cross-region, cross-cloud application. So how many other regions that you're running on will immediately discover. And if you have multiple accounts, we can discover across all of them. All you have to do is click through, pick which services you want, and connect your account. We look forward to working with you soon. Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for attending this webinar. Hopefully you found it useful. We look forward to seeing you on the application and with working with you there as well. Thank you, Bharat.
Thank you all. Thank you, Sabri. Thank you, Sudeep. Thank you.